Thank you very much. Good evening and welcome to Council Monday, March the 11th, 2024. Calling me to order at 4 p.m. As always, just remind everybody to turn off or vibrate their mobile devices. And I have a motion here that Council hereby accepts the agenda for Monday, March 11th, 2024, regular meeting of Council is circularly amended. Any additions, deletions to that agenda? Hearing none, you move it. Council Ruda, second by Council Suki. All in favor? Great, thank you. Any conflicts of interest? Hearing none. I have a motion here that Council hereby adopts minutes of the regular meeting of Council held on Monday, February 28th, as well as a closed meeting of Council held on Monday, February 26th, as circulated amended. Move back. Councilor Nixon and Councilor, any questions, errors, or omissions of those minutes? Anybody notice? Hearing none, call question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Right on down to the Student Council report. Councillor Cochane.
So currently our Falcons are enjoying a well-appreciated March parade. And since last meeting, the girls have started their tryouts and practices for the soccer team. And on last Friday, we had a little celebration where we bid farewell to our principal, Mr. Wilson. He's a great principal, so we wished him well on his new opportunities and welcomed the interim principal, Mr. Gordon. So I was a little sad, but you know, it was good for him. And yeah, that's about it.
Great. Thanks, Councillor Redden is off, and as we heard down in Belize, helping out down there. We'll get a full report from that adventure when he gets back. But yeah, it is sure a sad day because Mr. Wilson seemed to be that kind of principal that mingled with the students and really participated well with the student body in the high school. So yeah, I'm sure. But Mr. Gordon, I'm sure will fill in clearly well, and hopefully things change in September to the better for the community and the high school. Thanks for that. Up next, we have a report on declaration of surplus equipment. Mr. Skrzynski.
Thanks. So the town of Marathon has normally sold surplus equipment / items by public tender process. This year, redundant equipment will be listed for sale by tender with an advertisement in the Mercury, on the town's website, and on GovDeals where applicable. Administration has compiled a list of equipment and items that is recommended for sale, but in order to proceed, these items must first be declared surplus to the municipality's needs as per bylaw number 1822, the town's procurement bylaw. Financially, any proceeds generated from the sale of town items will be deposited into general revenue, and your administration recommends that council declare the attached list to this report of surplus items to the municipality's needs, thereby authoring administration to proceed with sale of the items, and that any proceeds of the sale be deposited into general operating and/or reserve funds.
Great, thanks for that. I do have a motion here that council hereby accepts the attached report and recommendation on declaration of surplus equipment items, and that the attached list to be declared as surplus to the municipality's needs, thereby authorizing administration to proceed with the sale of such items, and further that any proceeds of the sale be deposited to the general operations and/or reserve funds of the municipality. Move back. Council Nixon by Council. Are there any questions on that list of items? Hearing none, call a question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Mr. Paris is going to give us an update on Marathon's Schedule 22, Section 11 Annual Water Report for 2023. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, Your Worship and Council. Yeah, just an annual report. We bring this forward every year, so no different than in previous years. So we're bringing forward the Schedule 22 summary and the Schedule 11, both reported from Northern Waterworks, which is our contractor we have, a 5-year contract. The annual report has been prepared in accordance to both sections, and this reports to the municipalities for Ontario Regulation 170-03, made under the Safe Drinking Water Act. The report is intended to inform both the public and the municipal council on the operation of the system over the previous calendar year. Regulation 170-03 requires effective steps to be taken, and advise users that copies of reports are available without charge at the town office during regular business hours. The report must be distributed to council prior to March 31st. I will bring it forward to you. So highlights of the 23 report goes through the system descriptions and specifications, the system operating expenses overview, the water quality, including sampling and monitoring, flow monitoring, and regulatory compliance. Throughout the year, we did have 2 adverse water quality incidents. Both occurred on February 24th. One was an IP booster coliform hit. Basically, it was a missed sample, which we just had to resample for it. And well 5 was a low distribution chlorine at 0.07 milligrams per liter. That's a precautionary warning. We're allowed to go down to 0.05. That's just another example, just being due diligence and making sure we're on top of things. So the most recent inspection by the Ontario Ministry of Environment Conservation and Parks was initiated in February 14th, but we have not received a report yet, and we'll bring that forward when we get that report. Is there any questions from council?
I have a motion here first in regards to, we'll put that on the floor for questions. So the council hereby accepts the 2003 drinking water compliance report as presented. Moved by Councilor Lake, second by Councilor Suzuki. Questions, Councilor Lake?
Yeah, can I have a two-parter for you? One is just, we don't often have adverse water qualities, but it sounds like these are not anything that's really wrong with the system, so that feels good. The second question is maybe a little bit bigger in scope. So the new subdivision, we have that planned out. The tiny homes, perhaps, that sort of additional load on the system. Do we have to do anything preparation-wise, or does that feel like we can still handle that?
No, behind the scenes, we're doing all those calculations. So we're working with both AECOM and PUC on the distribution side of things. So no, we believe we've got the capacity for sure to acknowledge that. I will also say since 2020, we've been very proactive with leak detection. So our consumption is really dropping right now. And we did have a third-party review leak detection last year for consumption, which they were very pleased with our municipal sector and our workers in-house on the job they're doing in managing leak detection. So we're pretty pleased to say that.
Yeah. I remember buying that camera, boy, that's years and years ago.
Yeah.
The stats really.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, absolutely. We really dropped our consumption.
Awesome.
And you'll see that in the report. It'll start showing you there the report on how much we were dropping.
Thank you, sir.
So one thing on that too is, Councilor Lake, you recall, like when the town was booming back in the 80s, they built the system to accommodate more people than actually arrived. So we're well okay for any kind of a boom for the waste, especially the wastewater, but with all the wells too. One question I had in Dr. Newberry, I sent a request to Mr. Skorczynski and myself and in regards to the water table, and she sat on the committee some 20 years ago. I know you're going to set up with a meeting with her, but those are all safe in regards to the water levels within our aquifer? Because
Yeah, we're not seeing anything that's raising any flags. We're keeping up with demand, both with the reservoir. Our well capacity is way below what we could be pumping.
Okay.
We're not seeing anything there at all. And that, then just to be clear on that, that was the last report was done about 10 years ago.
Right.
So we're not seeing any changes there.
Well, I think just when I think with the leak detection, identifying all the potential leaks that are happening and fixing them quickly, then you're not losing that much water within the system. So you're not just pouring water back into the ground, right?
Absolutely. And the bad thing about that is treated water, right? So you're paying for the treatment of it. So that comes with a cost.
And the pump, Councilor?
Well, and I guess just this is from having been out at camp and seeing how low the water is on Superior, how dry the bush. There's no snow in the bush right now. Do we rely on that kind of spring melt to fill the aquifers, or are they?
That's one of the aspects, and there's also in-ground wells that come in. So if you go to the golf course, we've got a well almost sitting there.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of different avenues where water comes in. Believe me, I'm no expert at it, but it's not just from rainwater.
Okay, so we should be okay
Snow melt.
even with the dry spring. Okay.
And it could change very drastically, right? One large rainstorm, here we go. But that's not just a major factor.
Yeah, it's about a two-year turnaround. So
That's right.
We're sucking water from 2 years.
2 years.
Filtering into the system now.
That's interesting.
So yeah, it's pretty good. And I mean, that was a quite in-depth study of the
Yeah,
groundwater study back in the day. And the stream coming out is a good indicator by the Manitoulin Transport location.
That's right.
That's a good indicator of what our flow's like. So it's always flowing pretty good there.
Yeah, and if we'll monitor, if we do see anything, we will go to restricted watering,
Absolutely.
and there's other avenues we will deal with that.
Well, hopefully we can get more snow and rain, even though nobody wants to shovel snow, but we do need some more snow before the spring to make sure we don't get into the forest fire. Not only that, then the dry spell where it does affect a lot more things, right?
Yeah. Directly, as my daughter emailed me last night with 100 feet from Newfoundland. So, okay.
Yeah, they're getting a little bit down.
They're getting quite a bit down there.
Yeah, we don't want that much, we just need a little bit more. Any other questions on the report? No, Aaron, thank you very much, I appreciate that, that was for information, thank you. Up next, we have just a global report in regards to some of the things I attended to at board meetings over the last little bit. And obviously, council has been shipped all of those minutes. So I'll just kind of highlight the NOMA board. The NOMA board meeting we had with the NOSM team, we had both sides. We had the administration as well as the entrance team to go over clearly about what the rules are and how it's changed over the years in regards to entrance. It was quite surprising because NOSM has grown to be a real beast in regards to the applications. They're actually going to have more seats available in 2026 as well, over 100 seats between two university campuses. So it's really good for all of us. The reality is some 1,500 to 1,700 applicants annually, and to score all those individuals down to an acceptance of 70 to 80 students to be accepted annually to the school was a real learning curve even for us at NOMA, who were the original pushers to have both campuses developed back in 1990s. And I was part of that as well as a NOMA board member with then Ron Nelson, who was the president of NOMA, Dave Cansfield, that we really pushed for the Thunder Bay campus, and we got it. But they are accepting northern students to be northern residents and then northern doctors, but they also have to meet the criteria that is required through the hospital's admittance requirements. So we were very good, but they do have the numbers, and they shared with us a lot of docs are still staying in the northern part of the province. But the reality is, we all know that they're going to the bigger centers in the north, not to the small centers. So how do we convince those? And what the big thing is, we're very lucky that we have a great, retention individual with Mr. Redden. That's what it's all about. It's the envy of other communities to have somebody who is there promoting your community, but not just the hospitals, but the quality of life that you have in communities. So that's a big factor, and we've been lucky to have that for many years. So it's a good one for NOMA. And that was a really good understanding for us to understand that. I'll just quickly go over a couple of the other items that we discussed that were of importance. There were many things. NOMA has been very busy lately in regards to some of the things. We're having a strategic planning process on the economic development of Northern Ontario. If anybody recalls, maybe there are new councils don't, but maybe Council Lake will. The Ontario government put through a Northern Growth Plan. We're adopting some of those strategies out of that. We're trying to work and convince government of today to work with us in regards to how do we create a northern policy in the northern growth for Northwestern Ontario, specifically not Northern Ontario. Some of the other things that just highlight quickly was the association around the conference and the sponsorship that were coming up in April. And it was just all about how do we make sure that we're providing the best conference and location. So we had a bit of debate around that, and we went to an agreement that it would be every third year out in the district, but the district's not going to be able to handle it. So they can go to the west side, but they can handle it with the size of their communities. But for 300 participants at NOMA now, you can't handle it on the east side. So it'll always be in Thunder Bay or west. So we did come to that agreement. And then, of course, our issue trackers were just the straight up, the funding, police costs, railway, healthcare, mining, and housing. And then, of course, nuclear waste was a big one. We talked about that for a bit as well, but everybody's waiting for an answer to where it's going to be located. So, Councillor?
Yeah, it's funny. I just think with our student counselors, and I don't know what Councillor Crochane's plans are, but I know healthcare is part of it. Is like, how do we advocate, and that's potentially high up in NOMA for folks from our communities to become docs, right? I think that is the best case scenario, because they're the ones that stay. So I just
Well, it was funny. We did talk a bit about that, about how municipalities, instead of trying to pit against each other at the end for docs to come to their communities, was to look at those students in high school right now and offer them a program where you would pay their education for a return service. So that's something municipalities can look at, is how do we look at those students, especially the first year entrants, and say, listen, you want to come back to our community, wherever that might be, we'll take care of your tuition for the next 3 or 4 years, but you owe us 3 or 4 or 5 years at the end for that return of service. So that's an opportunity, but the best thing is the quality of life and convincing young docs who we all know don't want to work 40 to 60 hour work weeks. They want to work 40 or less, and they want to have the availability of upgrading training and moving around, right? And the other big thing, which was surprising, is a lot of docs don't want to be in GP no more, general practitioner.
Yep.
They want to move on to the next level of specialties. So sure, they're going to the school for that GP program, but then they're going up, and they're coming out 1 year, and then they're going back and working towards another profession within the specialized fields within medicine. So it's pretty interesting, but we learned a lot. Even though we thought we knew a lot, we learned a lot more. So we've asked them to have continuation of every 6 months or so updates and meetings. And they actually just took a NOMA representative to sit on the admissions team as well for the first time in a long time. So Wendy Beretta out of Fort Francis is going to sit as our rep on the admissions team for interviews for new students coming in the fall. So we're getting some movement.
That's what I was just gonna comment on, is the acceptance of the admission program. Countless people or kids that have applied to NAWSA and not got accepted, and they got the marks to do it, but they're not factoring in where they're from in that.
Well, believe it or not, Councilor, they are somewhat, they're getting points for that, but the 3.1 average compared to something with a 3.75 average, they're not going to get as much scoring. So they're trying to offset the scoring with the location where they live. But I know it's.
Can we just have them like clean a fish? Have that be one of the requirements?
We believe that would be some of the criteria, and they are working within First Nations communities to have a different model of acceptance.
Okay.
So there's not just about the 3.5 or 3.75 average. It's maybe a 3.1 will qualify you, but there's some acceptances within because of special needs, special opportunities or not opportunities. So there's some movement within the acceptance as well. And so, but that's at least getting Wendy Beretta on as a team from NOMA for the admissions interview process. It might give us some opportunity to get a better understanding and have a little bit of say. So it was a great opportunity to meet with them. And I think we've had 2 meetings now in the last year with them, which is the first time in probably 10 years we've had meetings. So we're seeing that relationship be built again. And I'm talking the whole team was there. So between in-person and virtual, we had the admissions, the administrative, and the dean. So, and there's going to be a new dean as well. Dr. Verma has submitted her resignation, so we'll see who comes out of that. And of course, the Thunder Bay District Municipal League was held for the gym in Nipissing, Ontario, and there was some key presentations through that 2 days. Of course, NOMA impact updates, challenges with the conservation in regards to Northern Ontario. We had Northern Horizons, navigating labor landscapes in Northwestern Ontario, specifically talking about that. That was through the Workplace Planning Board. That's a real struggle, as we all know. There's a lot of vacancies within the workplace, but yet nobody seems to want to be filling those. We had the update from the EMS in regards to the station closures potentially moving forward. We know that Beardmore is being affected, and what does that look like? We did have some discussion around DSAB maybe taking on the EMS rather than the City of Thunder Bay. I don't know if getting any traction from that. Some other places have DSABs looking after the ambulance services rather than the city. So we don't know where that might go, but we'll continue to monitor that. Some provincial updates in regards to the municipal affairs and housing. NAWSA was there as well, giving some updates in regards to that. And then following day, we had updates in regards to strategic plan for the Thunder Bay District Municipal League. As we said before, we're working on a strategic plan in regards to the region within travel and housing and of course transportation or highways. The partnership strategic planning from the North Lakes Greenstone School Board. Pinky was there as well as Will, and give us an update on how they're working with municipalities. I had an opportunity to interview with them as well prior to this to give them some of the things I thought from our municipal ideals and how do we get our students focused on education in the trades and technical and as well as academic. And then mining update in regards to district. This was an interesting one because the individual who was presenting had mentioned that Generation Mining was fully permitted. So I'm like, wow, that's awesome. So I didn't want to challenge her than I did after off the stage, but they are fully permitted in regards to the permits that deal with Thunder Bay office in regards to trees and water crossings, but there's still many more permits that have to come for Generation. The main permits are there, so I did follow up with the president of Generation Mining to make sure that was good, but it was just a misspeaking on her behalf in regards to the overall permitting process. Updates from the members of Parliament, Kevin Holland, of course, Thunder Bay Atikokan, and Lisa Vigeois, Thunder Bay Superior North were there giving us an update and MTO maintenance presentation in regards to what the MTO is doing with their contractors, and they seem to be doing a better job, but this year was not a good year.
Yeah, they've done a great job because there's.
Not a good year to judge, but they did have some we had some very good discussion around the penalties, the maintenance, and the patrolling. And so last year was a good year, even though we had a lot of snow, it was better. So they seem to be having a better handle on their process with their contractors. We did mention in a part of our meeting with the Minister of Transportation, Mrs. Skorchinski and Councilor Widow, we talked a bit about the competitive marketplace, right? That's the big thing is if you're working in a sector where somebody's paying 35 to 40 bucks an hour for a truck driver and you're only paying 28, they're more likely going to go to the place where they're going to get 40 bucks an hour. So they have to be competitive. So they understand that, and I think they're working with their contracts now. So any questions on those two? It was good sessions. Thank you. Up next, we have a motion here that council hereby supports the attached resolution received from the County of Frontenac pertaining to the Bill C-310 amendments to the Income Tax Act to increase the amount of tax credits for volunteer firefighters and search and rescue volunteers. And further, that a copy of the motion be forwarded out to individuals listed on the originating resolution. Moved by Councilor Lake, second by Councilor Suki. Any questions, comments on that? Councilor Lake?
So if I'm reading it right, it would be if you're a volunteer firefighter or a volunteer search and rescue, you would have a tax write-off on, like it would be a benefit that on the tax side of things.
The benefit exists already, so it's up to $3,000 you can claim on
So
your
this
income
is,
tax.
this is,
They're looking to extend it from 3,000 to 10,000. It's at the federal level, not provincial.
it's at the federal level.
Yeah. So if you recall, councils used to have 1/3 of our income tax-free.
Yeah.
So if you made 10 grand, you got $3,000 that we were not reporting as taxation. They did take that away from us, but they left the volunteer firefighters and the EMS people at that level. But they're asking for an increase, yes. So
Seems like
it's no brainer,
seems
but
like a no-brainer, but
yeah,
yeah.
we thought the council one, who was a part-time councilor for making, 8-10 grand and taking a lot of abuse when you think consideration of what you're doing for the community for a small amount of money, take away a tax credit, which was ridiculous, but they did, so.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
anything else on that?
No, that sounds good.
Okay, right on. All in favor, carried. Thank you. Up next, we have a motion here that be resolved that Council of the Town of Marathon nominates an individual position of President, Secretary, Treasurer, Director of the Caucus of the AMO Board of Northern Ontario, 24 to 26 term. And this is a standard policy that our councils have to nominate the individual that's representing the municipality. So it goes into the file for AMO that you support the expenses associated with that board governance. So the way it's working right now, Wendy Landry is running for the president of the Thunder Bay, for NOMA for AMO. If Wendy gets elected for AMO in August, then the opening will be for the presidency. I will probably put my name in for the presidency of NOMA at that point. But for this term, I'll still stay on as the executive vice president of NOMA, caucus member for AMO. So this is for both positions basically to be covered off as NOMA and AMO.
Sure.
So I need a mover and a seconder. Councilor Sugi, Councilor Lake. Any questions of that?
Great work.
Yeah, well, hopefully, Mayor Landry out of Shunya, as our NOMA president, gets elected, we're going to push hard and strong. But Robin Jones also is running as, she's the president of Roma right now. They're both good candidates, so either one, they understand the North, and they understand. Robin worked out of Thunder Bay for, I think, a decade and is an OPP officer. Okay. So she has the understanding. She's a mayor of a small community in Southern Ontario right now, but she understands North and rural. So either one of the members will be a good president, but of course we'll push for Mayor Landry to be our president, our nomination. So whoever's going to be attending AMO on behalf of the municipality, we'll definitely make sure we do our rounds and encourage members to vote for Mayor Landry. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Anything else? Everybody got? Well, in hearing that, we can get outside and enjoy some of the beautiful weather. At the hour of 4:25, we will adjourn. Moved by Councilor Lake, second by Councilor Wheeler. Thank you very much and have a good night.